Conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. Let's get to it.
Missing Japanese citizens. One night in June 1978, a 22-year-old single mother of 2 kids named Yaiko Taguchi was working her usual shift in Tokyo, Japan's cabaret Hollywood. After finishing her shift right at around midnight, Yaiko left the cabaret through the front door and was never seen again.
Man,
at first,
hey, big shout out to the big man above. I'm tripping.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think I'm a little bit stage shocked, frightened. I don't know.
I think we're both stage shocked.
Yeah, man,
It's been a long night. We barely got any sleep, y'all.
I know.
Nobody thought that anything serious had happened to Yaiko.
Sober.
In fact, several years later, her manager was questioned, and he claims that everyone...
Speak for yourself. I can't be sober. I'm just kidding.
thought she had quit when she failed to show up. At around that time, there had been rumors going around that several North Korean spies were working undercover in Japan looking to abduct innocent citizens and hold them as hostages back in North Korea. However, this was seen by the Japanese government as nothing more than a conspiracy theory that couldn't possibly be true. Sadly, the missing case of Yaiko went cold, and it wasn't until almost a decade later that a clue to her whereabouts emerged following a disturbing chain of events. In November 1987, as South Korea was preparing to host the Olympics...
They got 7-Elevens over there?
I was going to say, we need to go visit. I was going to say, they got 7-Eleven everywhere.
What?
In November 1987...
Bro, 7-Elevens are in every country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did see posts because they have, like, different drinks and they have ice. They have crazy stuff out there. Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I seen videos.
So, are 7-Elevens, like, more global than, like, McDonald's, or is getting up there, you think?
I think it's getting up there. It's getting up there.
As South Korea was preparing to host the Olympics in the capital city of Seoul, a Korean Airlines plane blew up in mid-air as it was flying over the Andaman Sea, taking the lives of 115 innocent people. During the investigation, it was revealed that 2 North Korean agents acting under direct orders from the North Korean...
Oh my god.
Andaman Sea, taking the lives of 115 innocent people. During the investigation, it was revealed that 2 North Korean agents acting under direct orders from the North Korean government had planted a bomb in an overhead storage compartment before getting off at the first layover in Abu Dhabi. As the authorities were closing in on the 2 suspects, one of them took his life with a cyanide-laced cigarette, but the South Korean government was able to arrest the other agent responsible for the attack. During her interrogation, it was revealed that she had been training for that mission for 6 years. And that for 3 of them, she had been paired with Yaiko Taguchi, who had taught her how to speak and act like a Japanese woman so she could fly under the radar. As it was later revealed, Yaiko wasn't the only woman who had been kidnapped by the North Korean government. As of today, 17 Japanese citizens have been officially confirmed by the Japanese government as having been abducted by North Korea from 1977 to 1983. Disturbingly, a lot of them were shamelessly kidnapped in the middle of the day and thrown on a boat to North Korea. You might think that the victims were involved in something shady that put them on the North Korean government's radar, but the investigations actually suggest that most of them were average citizens who just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's crazy.
One woman was captured while she was walking to a knitting class, and 2 others were kidnapped on a vacation to Europe. Another one, a 13-year-old girl, was taken as she was walking back home from school. Some of these victims were kidnapped for identity theft purposes, while others, like Yaiko, were forcefully brought to North Korea to teach the Japanese language and culture to North Korean spies. After the kidnappings were confirmed beyond the shadow of a doubt, the North Korean government had no choice but to come forward and apologize. But
not going here. Never going no Korea. Over.
Well, yeah, they're very strict over there too.
Hell no.
I do want to go to like Japan and stuff.
Yeah, but North Korea,
and
no.
China too.
No. Bro, all he can do is apologize.
They claim that only 5 of the 17 kidnapping victims were still alive. Over the next few years, the North Korean government would send what they would claim to be the cremated remains of some of the deceased victims back to Japan. However, as DNA testing would quickly reveal, pretty much all of the remains were fake, leading the Japanese government to believe that many more of the kidnapping victims were still alive. To this day, the North Korean government has stuck to its story, claiming that there are only 13 kidnapping victims and that the ones who are still alive were sent back safely to Japan. Shockingly, while the Japanese government has officially confirmed 17 kidnappings, the list of potential victims suggests that the true number could be as high as 800. Sadly, given the current political situation, it's unlikely we'll ever see the full extent of these abductions, or see the North Korean government held truly...
Bruh.
could be as high as
Look at
800.
why this car in the middle of the street?
Sadly, given the current political situation, it's
Is
unlikely
that park?
we'll ever see the full extent of these
You
abductions.
can't run over people going through the street. You gotta stop. Probably just stop right there.
Sadly, given the current political
he getting barricaded.
situation, it's
people
unlikely
still
we'll
stop
ever
on
see the full
railroad
extent of these
tracks.
abductions or
On
see the North
accident.
Korean government held truly accountable for its horrific crimes. Just the other day, I found myself wasting hours of that minds into than the discipline way to deal scaring a gun.
Respect it.
Back in the 70s, a journalist named Seymour Hersh published
you
an
told me
article in the
about
New
that.
York Times in which he accused the CIA of several assassination attempts
You
on both
did tell
foreign
me
and
about
American
that.
politicians who they considered to be anti-war dissidents. Due to these allegations, the U.S. Senate put the CIA under investigation for alleged covert action abuses, which resulted in the release of 14 reports on major abuses committed by the CIA, FBI, and NSA. The majority of the reports included accusations of crimes such as opening and resealing U.S. citizens' private mail for several years and illegally surveilling Black Power activists. Although these claims are obviously pretty serious, they pale in comparison to
thank you
one
for the
particular
subs, dog. Thank you so much. I
accusation or
appreciate you,
conspiracy
homie.
theory, which alleged that the CIA had
Thank you for
developed
the
a
gifted,
pistol
man.
that could fire a poison dart over 300 feet, take a person's life, and leave
Relax,
absolutely no
relax.
trace as to the cause of death.
Hey, you know what? We can put it off sub mode. I'm giving y'all one more chance, bro. Bro, if you hooligans come out here, bro, and can't keep y'all perverted thoughts to yourself, man, we're going to sub mode the rest of the stream, bro. Thank you, man. Make the camera a little bigger. All right.
You could do that on and off.
What?
Sub mode.
Yeah. Chat being weird.
As it was later revealed, this theory turned out to be true, and the development of the poison dart gun was just one part of the program called MK Naomi, through which the CIA had sought to develop weapons for biological warfare. In 1975, William Colby, the CIA director at the time, had to testify in front of the committee that was investigating the agency. During
But you don't really
questioning, he
hear
claimed
many
that the CIA had
people
developed a
politics
host of
having,
biological
you know, heart
weapons as
attacks
part of a
because
plan to eliminate
Hey,
German
how
leaders
many-
during
man,
World
there
War
people in
II,
the
but
rap
that their
game that
research
we
had
know,
continued
like,
until
you know,
well
having
after the
these
war.
people passing away from these heart attacks, aneurysms, like come
Natural
on.
causes.
Yeah, natural causes. Like, come on, man.
I don't like to talk about this kind of stuff.
He also mentioned that the poison dart gun was almost completely silent on account of the battery that was housed inside the handle, and that it had been specifically designed for the target to feel nothing more than a mosquito bite when the dart struck. Interestingly, the agency had used a specific shellfish toxin to make it impossible for anyone to know what the cause of death was, leading forensic pathologists to believe that the victim had suffered an inexplicable heart attack. It wouldn't help pathologists that the dart was designed to melt inside the body so that it only left a small red mark where it entered the victim. When asked if the heart attack gun, as it was nicknamed, was ever used on anyone,
Right,
the
what is
director
this
alleged that it
shellfish
had only been used
toxin?
for experiments and
Oh,
that
they
there were
do
no
have those
records
mini
of actual
shellfish that can
use.
kill, that can paralyze
As part of the
you if you touch
investigation,
them.
the
Like,
CIA
yeah.
had to
Seen a
hand over the
video
gun
on
to the
that.
committee.
Like even like
These mini
stonefish
shellfish.
too. You step on stonefish too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things in the sea that can actually, with no trace.
Yeah, I think the sea snake, ain't they the most toxic, like venom? There is, right, y'all? Man.
They come from like mainly in the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean, yeah. It's crazy.
That is so crazy.
Man, so
They
imagine
say aliens are in the ocean too.
on one a day.
Yeah, and there are some pretty wild pictures of the committee members analyzing the gun as William Colby answers their questions about it.
Look at this, man.
Normally, you'd expect to see something like the heart
It's
attack gun in a
interesting,
spy
though,
movie,
because
and it's
imagine
pretty
just seeing
wild to
something
think that
that
if they
can
hadn't
cause
put it
that
under
much damage.
investigation, they would have probably gotten away with using it for who knows what purposes. It's also pretty
You just
crazy to
hold it.
think
A
that if
heart
that's the
attack
kind of
is so
stuff they were
common.
developing back in
just
the
hold it, too, like
70s,
it's
imagine the
normal.
kind of technology they have their hands on now. Disturbingly, the hearing was the only time the heart attack gun was ever shown publicly, and to this day, it remains unclear what happened to it after the investigation.
Right.
Hey, chat, do y'all think this gun right here is even better now? I mean, the video quality is better now. Let's just talk about that for one.
Yeah, I feel like, but though it is better now, but if it's used on somebody, it can be traced back to whoever made it, because I feel like there's one scientist back there that knows exactly what to do to cause this. Because then everybody would be using it at that point, or like everybody would be trying to figure it out. But there's one scientist that just knows.
Man, you never know. This it's still here. It's classified though.
Yeah, like they'll
Bro,
know if it's
you know it's
used.
more advanced in some type of way, man. It's just crazy.
Rogue waves. Sailors often get a reputation for making up stuff they claim to have seen during their time out at sea.
I hear that all the
And
time
because
about
there's no
people
one
at
there
sea.
to refute their claims, they sometimes get away with some pretty tall tales. For centuries, sailors all around the world had talked about seeing monster waves on the open sea that would allegedly
That's
reach
scary.
over 100 feet in height. In
I used to have
1826, a
dreams,
French
babe,
captain
of me like falling in the ocean and wanting to drink all the water, and that's I don't know what that means.
I seen a stupid ass video like that where it was like theories out what happened. It was like if you're drowning, drink all the water.
Yeah, I
If
used to
you're
have
in a
dreams.
earthquake, jump into
Yeah, I
like
seen
miss
that,
all the
yeah.
way. I was like, what? I'd rather be in the water though than in the sky.
Nah, I'd rather be in the sky.
Yeah, I'd rather be in the water.
Nah, that water scares me, bro.
Yeah, I can't do planes. I can't. But
claimed that he had seen a
Yeah, drink all the
108-foot
water, I've
tall
seen
wave
that
in the
before.
Indian Ocean. Even though he had 3 sailors with him who backed up his claims, when he came back to the mainland, he was publicly ridiculed by the scientific community, as it was widely believed that it was impossible for a wave to be higher than 30 feet tall. For a long while after that, dozens of people continued to claim sightings of
I'm
these
surfing that
monstrous
thing.
waves in the middle of the ocean. But with no real evidence other than eyewitness testimonies, the existence of these waves fell into the urban legend or conspiracy theory category. In the 80s and early 90s, the Draupner platform was set up in the North Sea off the coast of Norway to
I've been
extract
wondering how
natural
they build those
gas.
things on water.
As part of
It
the
is
protocol that was
interesting,
carried
yeah.
out to
Yeah.
see if the platform was stable enough to withstand the rough seas, a wave height recorder was installed on the platform. On New Year's Day in 1995, the sensor recorded an 84-foot tall wave, which served as
Bro.
How tall is 84 feet? How tall is that? Give me an example. Can you give me an example?
I bet I don't even know what's 84. Y'all, how tall is the
Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower? Let's see that.
How tall is it?
How tall is the Eiffel? How you spell Eiffel?
You almost got it.
That's right, huh?
Yeah. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Smarter than a 2nd grader.
That's 330 meters. So that's 1,083 feet. How dang.
Damn.
Shit, I mean, that's way up. So, nigga, that's a boy. That's what.
Oh shit! I can't even imagine how fucking tall that is in real
Well,
time.
I know, bro.
We went to New York. How many times did we ever see an Eiffel Tower? We never went to go see it.
No, we never go see it.
Imagine.
I know, babe.
He said 83 feet.
Yeah, babe. We way
And the
off.
Eiffel Tower.
Babe, that's what God brought when He flooded the earth, man.
sea.
Yeah, where Noah was on a boat
Oh
on that one.
shit!
first real piece of evidence for the existence of rogue waves.
Babe, Eiffel Tower's Paris.
I was thinking of that Statue of Liberty.
After this incident, a lot of people started wondering how many of the sailors from previous centuries had been telling the truth. What's more disturbing than that is that there were probably hundreds of disappeared sailors from all around the world who had come across a rogue wave, also known as a monster wave or a freak wave. But because most people who encountered 100-foot tall rogue waves generally didn't live to tell the tale, their testimony went down into the depths of the ocean with them. Since the Draupner wave of 1995, there's been a growing interest in rogue waves brewing in the scientific community.
I don't know.
A few years ago, a professor at the Australian
visualize
National
it.
University had estimated that at any given moment
Somebody said
there are
Ferris
10
wheel.
rogue waves active in the world's oceans.
Yeah, think about Think about
Today, a
Ferris
rogue wave
wheel.
is
So imagine you sit right there, you see how tall Ferris wheel is.
Right, and like they're like this close on till that boat. Oh.
Man, but look at.
Oh no, they come back with my baby.
usually defined as a wave that is twice as large as the
not
largest
the
waves
baby
that come
ones.
up in a particular area. And while the root cause of rogue waves continues to be investigated, it's
Appreciate
generally
that stream,
accepted that
dog.
these monster waves appear when two wave crests join together at the exact right time, resulting in a massive wave that can sink even the largest ships and oil rigs.
Man.
Interestingly, it's also been discovered that rogue waves can take place in large lakes. In 1975, a freighter named the SS Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior under some pretty mysterious circumstances, with a lot of people in the scientific community coming up with all kinds of hypotheses to explain the incident. It wasn't until several years later that the scientists started theorizing that the vessel could have fallen prey to a set of 3 consecutive killer rogue waves, a phenomenon referred to as the Three Sisters, in which the first wave destabilizes the ship, the second wave hits the ship's deck before it can stabilize again, and the third wave overloads the ship with more water than it can take on.
Look, bro, when
If this
when
were
it's
true,
meant
it
for
could
that
also
thing
provide an
to,
explanation
with God,
for
when
the
that thing
mysterious
sink, it's
sinking
gonna
of
sink,
other
Chad.
large ships in oceans around the world over the past few centuries, but this
What?
might be a bit more difficult to prove.
What?
Yeah, say it like
I mean, bro, when it's your time, it's
Poisonous
your time.
alcohol. In January 1920, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was successfully ratified, triggering a 13-year period known as Prohibition, during which the production, sale, and transportation of alcohol was made illegal. During this period, the government enforced some pretty strict measures to prevent bootlegging of alcohol, which made the alcohol black market flourish like crazy. It was pretty much a playground for the mafia, in which the government would raid one bar and another one would crop up in just a few days' time. While all of this was happening, there were some pretty messed up rumors floating around that the US government was taking extreme measures to make sure people weren't consuming alcohol. These included allegations that the government was intentionally poisoning alcohol to make people who consumed it sick. For a while, this remained something of a conspiracy theory, but things took a turn
CIA,
pretty quickly
boy.
on New Year's Day 1927 when 41 people died from alcohol poisoning at New York's Bellevue
That still
Hospital.
happens till this day, though.
Disturbingly, the autopsies revealed that a lot of the victims had been drinking industrial methanol, otherwise known as wood alcohol, which can be fatal even at low doses.
And alcohol
It
just
turns
kills
out that the
girls.
government had forced companies to denature industrial alcohol to make it
Eflex
undrinkable
donated
since
$2.
1906,
Yo.
which was far
W.
Thank you for
before
coming.
Prohibition. But when the crackdown on alcohol started, the government ordered these companies to add quinine, methyl alcohol,
That
and
nigga
other
salted come up.
toxic chemicals to discourage people from drinking it. Their reasoning was that if black market dealers knew their alcohol had been poisoned, they wouldn't dare distribute it knowing how dangerous it would be for their customers to consume. I guess they forgot to factor in that the demand for alcohol at the time was absolutely insane, and that black market dealers didn't care who lived or died from consuming their product.
The black market was. When did the black market start?
I know.
They're
Because
talking
I'm
about the
black.
black market this way back in time. I didn't know the black market was a thing for this many years.
That is, yeah.
That's crazy. That's scary.
It wasn't until December 1933,
Eflex
6 years
donated
after the Bellevue
$2.
incident, that
I
the
said
federal
it was a
government
money-
But by
Black
then,
and shady.
thousands of Americans had already been poisoned with contaminated alcohol.
What's good, dog? Thank you for the sub, dog. What's
Gorillas.
good? Keep it real.
Nowadays, there's really nothing too shocking about seeing a gorilla in a zoo or on TV, but there was once a time when gorillas were considered to be in the same category as the chupacabra, the
Bill.
Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster. I was able to find that up until a couple of centuries ago, gorillas were considered cryptids, which are animals that are believed by some to exist somewhere in the wild, but whose existence has never been proven.
I heard about the
With most of
chupacabra.
these creatures, alleged sightings often turn out to be hoaxes, but obviously in the case of gorillas, what were once just rumors turned out to be true. Western explorers wouldn't come across a gorilla until around the 1500s, when an English explorer named Andrew Battelle was captured by the Portuguese off the coast of West Africa. While he was held captive on the mainland, Battelle described these disturbing, giant, ape-like creatures that would occasionally prowl around his campfire, but because he had never seen a similar creature before, he described them more as monsters than as animals. Battelle's description sent the rest of the world into what we can only call a gorilla frenzy, with all kinds of rumors being spread about these allegedly
They
bloodthirsty,
always
dangerous
lurk.
creatures living in exotic parts of the world. Over the next couple hundred
Keelan
years, the
Pratt
buzz around
donated
gorillas grew
$2.
as explorers in Africa sent back illustrations of gorillas to Europe, which were often given to royalty and emperors as rare gifts. If you were to ask any European
Come on, man. I know, man. I know. If they- I know. I'm telling you.
Stop!
I'm telling you. You know how they be, too.
I'm never smoking that thing with you.
back then what a gorilla was, they would have described it in a similar way to how we describe Bigfoot or the chupacabra nowadays. They were thought of more as mythical monsters than regular animals. It wasn't until over 200 years or so later that an American naturalist named Thomas S. Savage found a gorilla skull in 1847 during an expedition to Africa, which was the first piece of real proof for the existence of these animals. Naturally, this triggered a bunch of new expeditions to the area, and between 1855 and 1859, French explorer Paul Duchaillu confirmed the existence of gorillas and even brought some back dead. Just as Andrew Battelle before him, Paul Duchaine also described gorillas as these savage, bloodthirsty creatures which stuck in the public mind for a long time. Around 15 years later, some German explorers brought back a baby gorilla from Africa to Liverpool, even putting up some towels on the ship so he could swing around and entertain himself on the long journey back. As you can probably imagine, as soon as the ship arrived back in Liverpool, people started flocking around the hotel where the gorilla was allegedly being kept to catch a glimpse of the once
Like
mythical
King Kong.
creature. To the public's dismay,
Remember when that movie where they captured that big gorilla and kept him
Yeah.
on display?
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like that. Yeah, I was trying to say like this is like
At one point in
a
time,
creature
yeah.
we've never seen before. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly feel like that we're gonna see these extraterrestrials. Whatever. I'm starting to think they just, just demons, honestly, nowadays. But I feel like we're gonna see them in my lifetime. Like we're gonna have one to where it's gonna be on camera talking, or in whatever language they in, and like people just gonna interpret it in their type of way.
Right.
People gonna say probably be Nephilim creatures, extraterrestrials, another planet. But I really do feel like that we're gonna see that in our lifetime.
Okay, yeah, I think so too.
They call them the
You never know what
blues,
you're
the
gonna see in your
grays.
lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telling y'all, man. Yep, and everybody gonna say it's AI. There you go. There you go, you flux. Like, ain't it the perfect setup right now, bro? For bro, anything that happens like that's different, like in our mind, like that we're not accustomed to, we automatically assume it's AI now.
But AI does look really good too, though.
I know, but I'm saying it's gonna get to that point. Like, man, we see a spaceship out there.
Yeah.
And we go on live stream right now. People would sit here and say we somehow paid an editor to AI right there and there.
Yep, this is true. Mikey, sit with.
Although the gorilla wasn't the massive, violent monster they had thought, but rather a cute little 2-year-old gorilla who loved to play with dogs. A few years later in 1902, a little 2-year-old...
Bro, this thing look like a human. Bro, this jit got a fro. Somebody said, it's AI? Yeah, bro, dog, this baby is beautiful. It really is, bro. Bro, cash baby photo. Hey, bro, tell me y'all, dog. Don't come on, bro. Like, don't. That's racist, bro. But I'm just saying.
Old gorilla who loved to play with dogs. A few years later in 1902, a German explorer named Robert von Beringe killed 2 mountain gorillas, which were huge in comparison to the baby gorilla that the previous German explorers had brought back. And that was really the first time the public was able to understand what a full-sized...
Y'all wrong, bro. Leave my boy alone, bro. Let my boy live, bro. Y'all wrong, bro.
adult gorilla looked like. It's pretty crazy to think that at some point these animals that we now see as normal were once seen as legendary monsters. Interestingly, if you really look at the research, there are a ton of other animals that we now take for granted that were once brushed off as hoaxes, including kangaroos, platypuses, giant squids, and Komodo dragons. With so many of these myths turning out to be true, it really makes you wonder how many...
Man, that Komodo dragon is gangster! Like, y'all, bro, I want to look at some videos about the Komodo dragon, bro. I don't think y'all understand how OP this dude right here is, man. Like, bro, look at this goon.
With
look
so
at
many
him.
These myths turning out to be
bro, look at the confidence.
true.
Like, look how he walk. He wobbling.
You wonder,
Bro, that's like a pimp walk, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he know he's him. No, but no one.
how many animals are out there that we have no idea even exist.